These are the ports of Seattle and Los Angeles in May 2025. No, this isn't wartime. No, it's not another global pandemic. This is a trade collapse, entirely made at home. Cranes that once danced like clockwork now stand frozen. Container yards once stacked to the sky now lie half empty. Cargo traffic? Down by nearly 40%. And here's the part that should scare you. It didn't happen over months. It happened almost overnight. This is the sound of silence. But don't be fooled. This isn't peace. It's the quiet before a historic storm. So how did America's busiest ports turn into ghost towns? Why are the machines off, the workers gone, and the goods missing? And what happens when the system suddenly turns back on? Let's rewind, because the answer starts with a decision made in Washington that shook the entire global trade web. It all started in April 2025 with a single announcement. The US government slapped a 145% tariff on all Chinese imports. No warning, no phase-in period, just boom. Overnight, it became nearly impossible for American companies to afford Chinese goods, not because the goods disappeared, but because they suddenly cost more than double. For businesses, it was like trying to run a marathon after being told to wear ankle weights and pay a toll every mile. Manufacturers panicked, retailers froze, and logistics firms hit the brakes. Even the electric vehicle industry, which depends heavily on Chinese-made batteries, motors, and rare earth materials, slammed to a stop. This wasn't about a drop in demand. People still wanted phones, laptops, and cars. But when your battery costs jump 145% overnight, you don't just eat the loss, you cancel the shipment. In that moment, trade didn't slow down because the economy was weak. It slowed because the rules were suddenly rewritten. And that's when the real damage began. Not just in boardrooms, but on the docks. Long Beach, Los Angeles, Seattle. These aren't just cities. They're the gateways where billions of dollars in goods enter the United States every year. But suddenly, in the weeks after the tariff shock, these ports looked like ghost towns. No ships docking, no containers unloading, no truckers hauling freight. Just silence. Terminal operators cut shifts. Dockworkers clocked out early or not at all. Truck drivers sat waiting, engines off, unsure when or if work would return. And the effect didn't stop at the docks. Every warehouse, every store shelf, every online order started to feel the squeeze. Because when goods don't move off the ships, the whole supply chain freezes. Think of it like a domino line. Once the first tile stops, every tile behind it is stuck. This wasn't just a slowdown, it was a system-wide paralysis. And what caused this? A sudden freeze in cargo movement, caused by fear, uncertainty, and a tariff so high it made trade too risky. The stage was set for the next act, companies scrambling to survive. When the ports shut down and tariffs slammed the brakes, companies didn't just sit and wait. They fought back. Some rerouted shipments through Canada, hoping to dodge the harsh U.S. tariffs. It was like taking a longer, bumpier road to avoid a toll booth. Others started stockpiling parts in Mexico, creating secret stash houses near the border, waiting for the trade war to calm. Electric vehicle startups, desperate for lithium and computer chips, paid sky-high prices to fly critical components by air, turning shipping from a slow, cheap game into an expensive race against time. The supply chain became a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek, with companies searching for loopholes and workarounds. But every workaround added cost and delay, making it harder to keep factories running and shelves stocked. This scramble wasn't just about keeping business alive. It was about survival in a world where trade rules changed overnight. And while companies adapted, the shipping industry faced a crisis of its own. When 25% of vessel capacity vanished from U.S. routes, the shipping giants didn't just lose money, they lost trust. Companies like Maersk and MSC started rerouting ships to avoid American ports altogether. It was like a traffic jam so bad that drivers took side roads. Longer, less convenient, but safer. This retreat left the U.S. trade system stranded in chaos. The same delays that made your holiday gifts arrive late also emptied electric vehicle showrooms, as deliveries were pushed back for months. Shipping isn't just about moving boxes. It's about timing and predictability. When ships skip ports or change course last minute, it disrupts factories, retailers, and consumers. The worldwide shipping network is a finely tuned machine, and when one part pulls out, the whole system shakes. This retreat wasn't just a blip, it was a warning that America's role in global trade was slipping. And then, surprisingly, came a sudden lifeline. Then just when the chaos seemed unstoppable, came a surprising twist. On May 14th, the U.S. government announced a dramatic cut in tariffs, from 145% down to 30%. Along with this, businesses were granted a 90-day grace period to adjust and restock. For many companies, it felt like being handed a life raft in stormy seas. But here's the catch: 90 days is not a lot of time. Rebuilding frozen supply chains isn't as simple as flipping a switch. Factories need weeks to restart. Ports need crews to rehire and retrain. Ship schedules need to be reorganized. The clock started ticking, and the rush to restock was about to hit full force. Because in that short window, the ports would face an onslaught of cargo, the kind of pressure they hadn't seen in months. And that wave would soon test whether the system could handle the comeback or break under the weight. With the tariff cut and the 90-day window announced, retailers and manufacturers didn't just start ordering normally, they started panic buying. Imagine a crowd rushing into a store during the final minutes of a big sale. That's what happened at the ports. Back-to-school supplies, holiday inventory, and especially electric vehicle batteries all flooded the docks at once. This wasn't just a busy season. It was a tsunami of cargo crashing down on ports already struggling to recover. But the problem? The infrastructure simply wasn't ready. Cranes that had been idle for months couldn't suddenly handle this rush. Truck drivers were still scarce. Warehouses weren't staffed enough. So what should have been a comeback turned into a logjam. Instead of speeding up, the supply chain started choking. The panic buying created a new crisis, one born not of scarcity, but of sudden overload. And that set the stage for the port's biggest challenge yet: managing the feast after a long famine. For months, ports were empty, like a town hit by a drought. But now, with the flood of incoming cargo, it's like that drought has ended, and a feast has been suddenly laid out. Ports that had cut back staff and hours are scrambling to rehire workers and fire up equipment, but cranes and trucks don't switch on instantly. They take time to restart, just like a car that's been sitting idle all winter. Truck drivers who'd been laid off need to come back, and warehouse workers have to catch up on months of backlog. It's like handing a starving man a mountain of food and telling him to eat it all in 10 minutes. The ports face a massive challenge, managing a feast after famine, balancing speed with safety. If they fail, the congestion will choke the supply chain again, delaying goods, increasing costs, and frustrating millions. This sudden shift from silence to chaos shows just how fragile the system is. And for small businesses caught in the middle, the risks are even greater. For giant corporations, this supply chain chaos is a headache, but for small businesses, it can be a disaster. Imagine a family-owned EV parts supplier who invested their life savings to import a shipment. They counted on smooth trade and steady tariffs. But halfway across the ocean, tariffs change. Suddenly, their shipment costs double overnight. They can't afford the extra fees. The shipment sits stuck in port. Bills pile up, employees wait. This kind of whiplash, where policies flip-flop unpredictably, throws small businesses into survival mode. Many don't have the financial cushion to weather the storm. Some close down, others delay growth, and innovation slows. So while the headlines talk about big ships and tariffs, behind the scenes, real people are paying the price. The supply chain crisis isn't just about economics. It's about livelihoods and dreams caught in the crossfire. And right at the center of this storm is the electric vehicle industry facing its own perfect storm. The electric vehicle industry is supposed to be the future, cleaner, smarter, and more sustainable. But right now, it's caught in the eye of a perfect storm. Detroit and Silicon Valley are pushing hard to build electric vehicles at scale, but their supply chains are held hostage by unpredictable tariffs and shipping chaos. Battery plants need steady shipments of lithium cobalt and chips, materials mostly imported from China and other global suppliers. When tariffs jump suddenly or shipments get delayed, costs skyrocket and production lines stall. It's like trying to build a complex puzzle with missing pieces. That means fewer cars on the road, delayed deliveries, and disappointed customers. If this chaos continues, the dream of a fast transition to electric vehicles could slow down dramatically. And this slowdown affects more than just car companies. It impacts climate goals, jobs, and the future of transportation. As the world races to adopt clean energy, America's trade troubles could put it dangerously behind. Next, we'll see how these issues ripple out across the globe. This crisis isn't just an American problem, it's shaking up the entire world. With U.S. ports frozen or clogged, shipping companies started diverting vessels to other hubs like Rotterdam in Europe or ports in Mexico. It's like a major highway closing, forcing all the traffic to take long detours. But when too many ships crowd these alternative ports, those systems get overwhelmed too. Europe's electric vehicle industry, reliant on steady imports, is feeling the squeeze. Supplies delayed or diverted cause production slowdowns overseas, just like in the United States. Trade is a global web. When one thread snaps, the whole net struggles. This ripple effect shows how interconnected and fragile our supply chains have become. And as America's ports struggle to reopen, the chaos on every route means delays, higher costs, and uncertainty everywhere. The problem now is no longer just national, it's global. Next, we'll look at the human side of this crisis, the workers caught in the middle. Behind every container moving through a port, there's a team of dockworkers, longshoremen, who make it happen. But after months of layoffs and reduced shifts, many of these workers are still waiting to get called back. You can't treat them like machines. After weeks or months off, it's not easy to just jump back in at full speed. This labor crunch creates huge problems. Uncertain hours and job instability lead to protests and strikes, delaying shipments even more. Workers face burnout trying to catch up with the backlog. This human cost rarely makes headlines, but it's at the heart of the crisis. Without enough skilled hands on the docks, even the best plans for recovery fall apart. And with growing tension between management and workers, the situation risks spiraling further. Next, we'll explore what could happen if tariffs snap back again. Something nobody wants but many fear. August could be the tipping point, the moment when this crisis turns catastrophic. If tariffs snap back to 145%, the second freeze will be inevitable. Imagine dozens of ships arriving, each facing massive fees that make unloading impossible. Containers will pile up on docks, abandoned and forgotten. Trucks won't find loads to haul. Warehouses will overflow. The whole supply chain will come to a grinding halt again, worse than before. And for consumers? Forget holiday shopping. Popular products could vanish from shelves. This nightmare scenario isn't just a guess. It's a real risk unless something changes fast. The clock is ticking, and the next few months will decide if America's ports survive or collapse. Next, we'll zoom out to the bigger picture, how this crisis breaks trust in global trade. Trade is built on trust. Trust in schedules, in tariffs, in agreements between countries. But when policies flip unpredictably, that trust breaks down. Businesses can't plan, factories can't schedule, and ports can't operate smoothly. Global trade becomes like a shaky bridge, ready to collapse under any extra weight. The electric vehicle revolution, infrastructure projects, even the packages you order online, all depend on a steady, reliable supply chain. Right now, that foundation is cracking. Without trust, companies hold back investments, projects stall, and innovation slows. This crisis is more than a temporary disruption. It's a warning sign for the future of global trade. The question is, can we fix it before the damage becomes irreversible? Next, we'll wrap up with a call to action. What needs to happen next? This isn't about politics. It's about competence. If we want electric vehicles built on time, ports running smoothly, and prices that don't spike overnight, we need long-term trade rules, not knee-jerk tariffs that flip-flop every few months, not 90-day band-aids that barely hold the system together. We need stability, clear, predictable policies that businesses and workers can rely on, because the next supply chain crisis isn't coming. It's already here. It's time to demand better. For the economy, for innovation, for every family waiting on that next package or car, the future depends on it.